Because I think there's a student view that I can look at. So let's make sure that you can hand in the assignment. Okay, so how do I... Let me see. So we'll go to assignments. And edit mode. I thought there was a mode that I could see. Edit mode is off. Okay, maybe that's how it works. So if you go here, then you have it there. Did you see that? Okay. I clicked on the assignment, and then this is the page here, and then just browse and submit it there. And then click submit. Okay? Yep. Okay, let me change that then, because maybe I think I might have. Okay, let's just see. Let's see what the deal is. Edit mode on. Edit. Allow unlimited attempts. That sounds promising. Okay, try now. Okay. Excellent. Okay. So sorry about that. I mean, that's, that's actually a good lesson. Yeah.
Sorry, I just realized I don't have those files for assignment 4 on my notes. I'm going to do this.
Yes, you can. Okay. So is anyone, is the server still down? Can you try and, because I want to do something today that if you don't have your own laptop, we'll need to use a server. It's still down? But I wonder if, this one here, right? I wonder if we can just sign up for a new account quickly. Let me just see. Free hosting. Order now. Choose. Okay. We'll just say Carmen Berenje. Carmen. Might have to use a different email. I'll use Ryerson. Because in this part seems like maybe. Okay, well. Oh. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's working. Okay. What's that?
I don't know. Did you see that countdown?
Yeah, but that's waiting. Oh, waiting for email confirmation. Hang on a second. Because we can't use the Ryerson servers because we need some services that the Ryerson servers do not have. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, let's try it. No, it's still not working. Well, actually, I don't want to do this every damn time.
Skip back.
No. This just feels like a virus waiting to happen. Okay. Okay, what we will do... well, we might have to look for a new one, but what I'll take you through the way you should do it, which is create a local server on your laptop. So if you have your own laptop, you can follow along. I will be recording, so you could do this either at home. The thing is, I want you to do an assignment. I'm just trying to think how you will get that assignment to me. because we're getting a little more complex now. Because WordPress, so I'll explain WordPress in more detail, but WordPress uses server-side technology. So you can't just send the file to me because it matters in the environment that the files are run. Okay, but let's just get to the lecture, and I want to teach you about WordPress and a few other general things, and then I'll take you through the install, how to use it, and then I'll have an assignment, a WordPress assignment for you, and I'll just have to think about the best way for you to submit it. Okay, so let's see. So I want to give you a little spiel before I get into. Maybe we'll use Paint for this. I like MS Paint in some ways. Okay, so I think I've mentioned this a couple of times. I talked about it a little bit with jQuery, and just sort of in my general discussion about computing. So when we talk about computer technology, the tools that we use lie on a spectrum. Okay, so this is a line and an arrow. Okay, so this is our spectrum of abstraction. Okay, and this isn't limited to computing. This is something that I think occurs in all engineering. Right, anytime you have something really complex, like an airplane or a computer, right? It's more complex than a human is capable of understanding all at once, right? So we can, basically in our heads, we can hold 7 plus or minus 2 things at one time, right? So how many components exist in a 747? Way more than 7, right? So what we have to do is we have to abstract away all those components, either down or up, depending on the level that we want to work in, right, or what we want to do. So on the far left side, we have low-level stuff, low level, right? These are the details, the nitty-gritty. Okay. On this side, we have high level. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 examples, the airplane and computing. We're going to look at those in parallel. Okay, so at the lowest level in computing, let's say, would be 1s and 0s. Right? That's what your computer understands, 1s and 0s. Right? The initial, those huge computers, from the 1950s? Like these guys here. See all these? See what these guys are working on? Or even this is even a better one. These guys are working at that level. They are working. See these are all switches and transistors. Well, not transistors. They're tubes. Okay? And the tube, if the tube was electrified, that means 1. If it's unpowered, that means 0. So these guys and women were actually, had their hands on this low-level stuff, right? The term bug, and I mean this could be just sort of a myth, but I've heard it so many times, it might as well be true. But the term bug comes from the fact that an actual bug, a moth, flew into one of these machines and got into the switches, and then it didn't work anymore. Okay, that is the lowest level. Okay, so you can imagine what these people were able to do at that level. Not a lot, right? It would take you years and years and years to program a machine like that to do anything useful, right? To do some numerical analysis or something like that, okay? So what we do is we put a layer. So once we figure all that at that level, we put a layer of abstraction over top. So we don't have to deal with that anymore, right? So let's just, so this is for computers. Actually, let me just undo this. Because I was going to do 2 branches, right? So we have, on one branch, we have computers, and then the other one we have, let's say, a plane. Okay? So at the lowest level for computers, we have 0s and 1s. And the plane, that's things like nuts, bolts, wires, you know, the raw components, right? The things that you would have to order, okay, in order to assemble your plane. So, you know, as an airplane designer, you know, you may at some point be working at that level, but not all the time, right? You're moving between high and low level design, okay? So the next level up for computers, we call that assembler programming. Assembler, two S's. Yeah. Assembler programming. So that's still complex. Like let me show you a little bit of assembler. So this is what assembler code looks like. Actually, maybe not. This is assembler code here. Oh, actually, that was a good. I want to view the image. So this is assembler code. Okay. Can you? I've been studying computer science for the last 15 years. I have no idea what that means. Not a clue. It's too low level, right? If I were to build an application at this level, it would take my life. My entire life, because this stuff is I think this is load string. So we're going to load this string into some register, and then, you know, I'm literally moving bits around, and it's far too low level. So maybe for the plane, let's see, I'm not an airplane designer, but that might be like, now we're getting into components, right? Like maybe the tire, right? Or like a wire harness that has lots of like components, right? Components, okay? So like tires, what's another like high, like the wing maybe? I mean, that might be a little too high, but you get my point, okay? Then as we go up further, we have another layer. Probably, I would say C code is the next level up. So I'll just show you a quick example of some C code. And C code looks fairly similar to JavaScript. JavaScript, let's see, images. So this is what C code looks like. So now we're starting to get to a level that we are a little more familiar with. So see, right here we're declaring variables. Right here we're setting a value of a variable. And you know, this isn't the best example, but basically this is still fairly low level. You still have to do things like memory management. So you would have to, say, allocate a bunch of memory for your variables and then store it in that memory. And if you don't do that allocation correctly, you get these weird errors. And so you can understand, if you're trying to build an application and you're worried and you're bogged down with dealing with memory, it'll take you forever, right? So still, it's not quite at that level. So maybe here for planes, that might be things like the fuel system, right? Or the landing gear, which is comprised of the wheels, the thing that holds the wheels, all that stuff, right? So we're chunking things together. Now finally at the end here, it hasn't, and so this was sort of 1950, 1960, 1970. So basically from about 1980 to now, it hasn't really changed. We haven't got another, or they have, but I'll tell you why they sort of fail. So now we have things like Java, C#, and even C++ kind of lives between these two. But these are the big ones. So Java, and then here, you know, what would we do in the plane? I don't know, my metaphor sort of dies here. Maybe, I don't know, help me out, guys. Sorry? The autopilot system. Yeah, that could work. Pilot. No, how do you spell pilot? P-I-L-O-E. No. Oh yeah, there we go. Autopilot system. Okay. So this is what we're faced with computing. Okay? So what do we gain and lose as we move across the spectrum? Right? There's a trade-off. On the low end, we gain control. Okay? So we have fine control over every little thing that happens. But we lose, what do we lose? We lose power. Okay? Like, so it would be really hard for me to build a plane just thinking about nuts and bolts, right? Or it would be impossible for me to design an application, like a web application, using ones and zeros. It would be an exercise in futility. You'd never ever get it done. Okay? So obviously on the other side, we lose control. We lose control. So we lose power. So here we lose some control, but we gain power. Okay? And so that, obviously if we're in the center, we're sort of balanced between control and power. So for example, if you need, let's say, when the early video games came out, let's say, older computers, games like Doom, is anyone familiar with like 3D shooters? So those games were able to run on extremely slow machines. I ran Doom on a 386. Okay? That was running at 66 hertz, and this computer runs at 2000 hertz. Okay, that's just the difference. So you need fine control over how the memory is handled. So a lot of those games were coded in assembler, right? As much as possible was coded in Java or C, but at certain points the developers needed a level of control that the higher level stuff doesn't allow for. So there are instances where sometimes you need to operate in that low level, right? Sometimes you can operate in the high level. It depends on the level of control and power that you need. Okay? So let's stick some of the technologies we've been using. So let's put in, JavaScript would be somewhere here. Okay, and then we learned about jQuery, right? And jQuery is a higher level than JavaScript, right? Because we're losing a little bit of control, but we gain power. We can do things much faster in jQuery than we can in JavaScript, right? JavaScript takes longer, and because we need to handle the details. Okay? So in most cases, though, we don't need that control. We need the power, right? I imagine most of you here are interested in building applications, not in pure computer science problems, right? You're not after, how do I sort this list the fastest possible? You want to make applications, right? So you guys are primarily going to live in this side of the spectrum, okay? So this whole 10-minute, 15-minute spiel is to introduce WordPress, okay? WordPress lives over here. WordPress is on the far side here, way over here, even beyond my, right? It lives far on the high level, very high level. So what does that mean? That means we have very little control, but very high power. Okay? So WordPress will allow you to create a website in 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes. One that looks nice, is responsive, so it'll work on a desktop, it'll work on your mobile phone, it'll work on your tablet. Okay? But if you have a really specific design in mind, using WordPress may be a challenge for you, right? Because you lose control, you gain power, so now you have the power of creating a website in 5 minutes. But if you have a specific requirement, you have that power, but it's more difficult than if you just created it from scratch, the stuff we've been learning so far. Okay? So WordPress is another example of a layer of abstraction that's tacked on to existing layers, right? So, at the end of the day, even WordPress, it resolves down to the ones and zeros, right? Because that's all the computer understands. So you have all these abstraction layers between you and the computer, which is why this computer is so much more usable than, where was it here? Even this, or especially, where's my other one? This, right? You needed a PhD and 20 years experience to even get inside this room. They wouldn't let you anywhere near it, right? Because it was so difficult to use because it lived at that low level. Okay? Okay. So, am I beating a dead horse now? You guys understand what it is we're doing, right? And that there are different tools that do different things. Okay? So, that's spiel number 1. I have another spiel for you. So I'll save this. Save as G. So we'll call this abstraction. Okay. So how do we clear the screen here? Can we just select all? Gone. Okay. So we're going to learn about WordPress today. Now, WordPress requires server-side technology. Okay, now, I know I said earlier that I wasn't going to teach server-side technology, and I'm still not. I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you what they are and what they're used for, but I'm not going to have time to get into MySQL or PHP. So, to use WordPress, you need to know what those things are. You do not need to know how to use them, right? Just like with all of those layers that we had, let's say to use assembler, you don't have to understand binary code. To use C, you do not need to understand assembler or binary code. You get that? Like to drive a car, you don't have to understand how it works. You just drive it because the engineers have abstracted away that complexity to a steering wheel and foot and pedals. Okay? So you still need to know about gasoline, though, to use your car. It's a good idea to know your car has an engine and all these things help you operate the car, right? Just as I'm going to tell you a little bit about PHP and MySQL because you need them to use WordPress, but you don't need to know how to use them. You just need to know about them. Okay. Okay. So stop me. I don't think I did this already because we haven't talked about server side. So remember, any computer, your cell phone, your tablet, any computer can be made to function as a web server. Okay? Any computer. You could take your laptop and you could do what we're going to do today, and you could take it home, plug it in, and you'd have to do some configuration on your router, but you could run a web server from your house on your laptop. No problem. Okay? So, let's say this is our server, our conceptual server. Okay, every server needs 4 things. You need 4 things on a server, 4 software applications on a server in order to support a website. Okay, and so there are the first type of software you need is, well, let me see if you guys can guess. What bit of software does every computer need, otherwise it will not function? Operating system. Excellent. Operating system. So every web server, just like every other computer, needs an operating system to function. Okay? The second thing that every web server needs is, and I won't make you guess this one because you won't be able to, is software. It's just called a web server. Okay? The third thing we need is a server-side script. Okay? What's the client-side script we've been working with so far? Nope. Client-side script. JavaScript. That's the client side, right? So there are similar technologies that will run on the server side. Okay? So the final thing we need is a database. Okay? So this is sort of the generic description of what a server needs. So, can anyone name me an operating system? Windows, yes. Windows what? 3.1? Yeah, yeah. You could UXP. You could. My work still uses Windows XP. Major billion-dollar corporation. Okay. So we have, let's just say Windows. What else can we have? Mac, or let's say OS X. OS X. What else can we have? Netscape. That's not an operating system. That's a browser. No. Netscape is just like Internet Explorer or Firefox. It's just an application that runs on the operating system. I think this is capital. Sorry? Android is one, but geez, that's a curveball. No, it is an operating system. I've never heard of a web server being run on Android, though. I'm willing to bet it's possible. I don't know, though. That's a new one. But yes, Android is an operating system. But let's skip that one for now. What's the other major one? Linux. Okay, these are our options for operating systems. Okay? Let's make this a little smaller. Okay. So here's $1 million question. Can somebody tell me the name of a web server? No? Okay. Sorry?
To Wordpress?
No. Not a web server. So the most popular one's called Apache. Okay. There's yes. No, Red Hat is a flavor of Linux. So Linux is an open source operating system, and there are many different distributions of Linux. So Red Hat is one. It's kind of like Windows 7 versus Windows 8. It's not necessarily better like Windows 7, 8, but Red Hat is by one group. Ubuntu is another group. What's another Linux distribution? There's a couple of them, and they all sort of run the same, but they have differences. So another one is called Tomcat, and Microsoft has one. What's the actual name of it? I just know it's IIS, web server. But what is? Let's figure out what IIS. Internet Information Services. So that's Microsoft's IIS. That's Microsoft's server. Okay, those are the three main ones. There's probably other ones too. So, can anyone, I think I may have briefly mentioned it just now, can anyone think of a server-side script? So, that's okay. There's no reason why you should know. One is called PHP. That's a very, very popular one. Okay. Another, you can actually use Java, not JavaScript, Java, different. With Microsoft, they have one called ASP, and you can actually use C# as well. Okay, so these are our. It's kind of getting a little tight here.
Dude, one of the web servers is one of those web servers thing you're asking?
This, they're cross-platform. So Apache will run on all three of these. Well, it's not. They have different distributions. Yeah. And then, can anyone name a database? Yes. Yes, so that's sort of, SQL stands for Structured Query Language, so that kind of defines a couple of different ones. So one of the most popular and open source one is called MySQL. That's the one we're going to use today. There's also SQL Server, I believe is Microsoft's version. There's a couple of other ones. Sorry? Oracle is one, but Oracle does a bunch of things. But they do have a database system. I think IBM has one. think it's called DB2. Don't quote me on that. But so the point is there are several different flavors of database. So we can mix and match between all of these, right? We can create what's called a server stack, right? If you say you ask an IT person, what's your server stack? They'll say, oh, I'm running a WAMP server. What do you think WAMP? W-A-M-P. What does that stand for? I have server-side and database rearranged. Windows, Apache, PHP, or no, it would be MySQL, PHP, WAMP. Right? How about a LAMP stack? Linux, Apache, PHP, MySQL. Okay? So, you can't run a Microsoft server on Linux or OS. You have to run it on Windows. Okay? But the other ones, Apache, Tomcat, and the other server-side scripting languages, they are cross-platform. So they'll run on Windows or Linux or Mac OS. Okay? So, the most popular server stack, now this may have changed recently, but as far as I know, the most popular server stack is a LAMP stack. So Linux, right, we have LAMP. Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Right? LAMP. Whoops, it's already bolded. LAMP. Okay? Okay. So, just think of them as applications, right? Think of Apache as like Microsoft Word, right? So in order to write an Office document, you need to install Windows and you need to install Word, and then you can write an Office document. In order to serve web pages, you need to install an operating system, install a web server, also install a server-side script, and a database system. And then you have a computer that is more or less configured to be run as a web server. Okay? Okay. Is everyone clear on that? Because we're gonna build on this knowledge now. Because so now this is the real stuff. If you were going to do this professionally, the stuff we've been learning, that's just the intro stuff. This is the really intense stuff that you get paid the big bucks for being able to understand and work with. Okay? Because if you know these technologies, you can create real applications. The stuff we've been learning, you can create a front end, but nothing in the back, that's kind of the more important part, right? Okay. So, in the olden times, you would have to install all of these things separately. Okay, you would need to. It would be it would probably take you a day. Okay, if you kind of knew what you were doing. So you would install Linux, which used to be really, really hard to do. Now it's pretty easy. Then you would have to, in Linux, installing Apache is a big pain. You have to configure all these files, and sometimes they don't talk to each other, and then same thing. So it would take you a long time. Okay, but the kind folks on the internet have actually created a very nifty tool called WAMP Server. Okay, so as a web developer, what you should do, what your workflow should be like, is you should do your development on a local machine. Okay, on your laptop, on your desktop, you should be doing your development fully on that machine. Right? It's generally not a good idea to develop and then copy your code to a server and then check on the server. I mean, that'll work, but what if you want to work when you're not online? You can't. Okay, or what if the server crashes and you don't have a local copy of your code? Then you're screwed. Okay, so what I traditionally recommend for anyone doing web development is that they install a web server environment on their computer. So then it's like you have a web server and a browser, so then your computer becomes both the server and the client. Okay? Then you can develop your website locally, and then when you're ready, then you transfer it to the server and test it on the server. Okay? So what I'm going to show you is, I'm not going to do it because I think I already have it installed. Yes, I do. Okay, so we want to install a server stack on our computer. Okay, so since I know I said a lamp stack is the most popular, but I have a Windows machine, and I don't want to do a dual boot, and do all that stuff, and I assume you guys don't want to do that either. And really, the operating system doesn't matter. If you developed on a WAMP stack and your server was a LAMP stack, it wouldn't matter. Right? The PHP, all the code stays the same. It's just the web server will be a little different. Right? So the inputs to the web server are the same, and then it just talks to the operating system in its own language. Okay? So you don't really have to worry about that. But definitely, if your server-side script on your server was different than what you're developing in, not going to work. They have to be the same. Okay? So what we would do, so I want to install a local server to my machine. So I'm going to download here. I'm going to go here, and it's giving us excuse me, options for 32-bit and 64-bit. It probably doesn't really matter, but if you have a 64-bit computer, then you download the 64-bit version. Does anyone know? Are you going to ask what the bits mean?
No, but how do I tell what my computer is?
I think if we go here, 64-bit operating system. So all that means, all that gives, what's that?
That's on the
No, I went to Start, right-clicked Computer, and then Properties. If you have a newish computer, it's probably 64-bit. All 64-bit allows you to do is address more than 2 gigs of memory. So remember, computers only understand zeros and ones. So if you have 2 billion memory slots on your computer, with 32 bits, only gives you enough bits to, let's see if we can do it in the calculator here. Let's see what a 32-bit number, what's the maximum number we can represent. So I'm going to change this to programmer. I'm going to put it in bits. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, it even shows us. Here, so I'm going to go to 32, and then I'm going to convert it to decimal. So that is the biggest number. What is that? 3 million. 8, no, that's a trillion. That's 100,000. Okay, million. 8 billion. 8.5 billion. So if you want to address this memory slot plus 1, you can't with 32 bits. You need another bit. So if you have 64 bits, that means you can reference that much more memory. If you have a 32-bit computer and you put in 4 gigs of memory, the operating system can only reference 2 of those because it doesn't have enough bits to reference that memory. Right? So having a larger bit operating system, it just allows you to have more memory. That's it. That's all. Okay. So we would download this, in my case 64-bit. I would just download directly. It's going to take you here, download the file. And it's just an install wizard, like any application. Okay? So you keep it and then you run through it. I don't think I'll be able to do it because I have it installed already. We'll see how far I can get. So we download WAMP server. I think even there's probably, if you use a Mac, I bet you there's a MAMP server. Let's try it. Would it be called MAMP server? Let's try that. I've never really developed them. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, exactly. My instincts are honed. So, yeah, if you use a Mac, it's the same thing, right? Apache, MySQL, PHP, but these applications will run on a Mac. Okay? And if you have Linux, do many of you have Linux? Why did you guys laugh at me like that was some sort of crazy? Yeah, I guess it's a little crazy. Unless you're a developer, there probably isn't really a reason to use Linux, or unless you're a system admin. But Linux is actually can be it's free, it's open source, right? Windows you got to pay. I mean you've got to pay, right? But Linux is free legitimately, so why not? Okay, even I don't use Linux, but where was I? Okay, yes, we were downloading WAMP. So I downloaded it. Now I'm going to click it, install it. Now here's the thing. I installed it on my Windows 8 machine last night, and the virus scanner popped up and tried to prevent me from installing it, but I just overrid it because it said, oh, it's a security risk, which is, I mean, that's technically true because you're creating a server now that will theoretically respond to incoming connections. But to me that's not a worry, because I mean it would be hard work. You have to work hard to get this to work. So you're not going to accidentally create a web server that people can just access, right? If you're on, let's say, the wireless network here, all the incoming connections are blocked anyways. So nothing's going to get to your computer. So to me it's not a security risk. Although I have a high tolerance for security risks, so you'd go through all these, you'd install it into a directory. I think it's going to complain because I already have it. Okay, I'm not going to install it, but go through it, and then it installs. Okay? So what do we want to do now? So now we can run our WAMP server. So I'm going to start, so we can go to... So, Windows 7 and Windows 8 too has amazing search features. You should definitely use the search. It is so much quicker than going through the menu, right? See what I did here? Watch how fast I can open up a program. So I type window key, brings up, then I just type in WAMP, enter. Right? That's it. As opposed to trying to go through 4 different menu things. Okay, so now it's asking me, do I want to install my WAMP manager or run it? Yes, I do. Okay, so see this little W here? So what we can do is click here, and we'll see all these options here. So we can stop all services, okay? We can start all services. So that'll start the web server, start PHP, and start MySQL, and also stop it, okay? So it's actually yellow, which means that's a caution. It should be green, but it might actually be working anyway. So let's try it. So what I'm going to do now, okay, it's working, so we're okay. Okay, so I need to illustrate a difference here. So notice when, let's say, okay, I'm going to close all these. Let's say we go back to one of our example files from our demos, like this. Okay, index. I'm going to copy this index file to the C drive on my local machine. I'm going to paste it here. Yes, I want to do that. Okay. So now if I open a browser and I go C// it should work, index.html, it loaded up my HTML file. Okay? But notice here, file C. Okay? That means that file was served up into my browser by Windows, by the Windows Explorer. Okay? Now, watch what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to go to localhost. Okay? Localhost is a special web URL that is basically pointing back around to my laptop. Right? So let's say back here we have this is our server. So I'm making a connection, but I'm going right back to my server. Right? I'm not going, usually when you make a connection, you would have another server over here, right? And you'd make a connection that would go from here to here. Okay? But now we're making a call to ourself using this call localhost. Okay? So now the files that are being served up are not being served by Windows Explorer. They're being served up by what? WAMP. Well, which part of WAMP? Not the operating system. Nope. 3 left. Not the server-side script. 2 left. It's the not the database. So it's the web server, right? The web server now is serving up that file. Okay? So what we have to do is, you'll notice, remember when I was installing WAMP, it asked me where to put it. Okay? So I installed it in the directory cwamp. Okay? But so there's an important directory in here called www. Okay? This is where the web server serves all the files from. This is the root folder for our web server. Okay? So I'm going to create a folder here. Okay? Called server test. Okay? Server test. And I'm going to copy that same index file. I'm going to copy it into this directory. Okay? So there's 2 ways I could look at this file. I could do this. I could say copy this and go into my browser and say server test index.html. Okay? So notice file and C. So what served up this file to my browser? Windows Explorer, right? Not Internet Explorer, Windows Explorer. Now, same file, but I'm going to access it through a different route. So now I'm going to go localhost / server test index.html. Okay? Now my file is being served by a web server. It looks the same, but it's different. A different process delivered the file to our web page. Okay? And with the client-side stuff we've been working on, it doesn't really make a difference at this point. But if you start using server-side technology, it absolutely matters. Okay? Let me just show you a quick example. Again, I don't expect you to know how to use PHP. I just want to show you a little example. So let's go to, I'm going to go into here. So this is, remember, WAMP www server test. Okay, this is that folder that I'm working with. So this here, so WAMP and www is in a way replaced by localhost. So localhost is referring to that folder, but served through the web server, not through Internet Windows Explorer. It's a big difference. So I'm going to go here, server test, and I'm going to create a new file called test.php. This is going to be probably our first, probably only PHP file we're going to use. So I'm going to edit it. Okay, and the way we tell the web browser that we're going to use PHP code is we use this. So this opens up the PHP code, and this closes the PHP code. So it's sort of like the HTML. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is use the keyword of the command echo and hello world. Okay, so now this will make a difference on whether I serve it up from the web server or from Windows Explorer. Okay, so let's first go to Windows Explorer. So instead of index, I'm going to type test.php. Test. Okay, now notice that. See what it just did? It just printed out verbatim what's there. Because it doesn't understand PHP. Windows Explorer, right, and your browser, it doesn't understand it. It's just like text from any place else. Now, let's try the same file as served up by our web browser, our web server. Okay? So we'll go here, test.php. There we go. Okay? So what happened is it actually ran the PHP code. Right? And so this code here, echo hello world, it means print out hello world. So the web server is able to see that it's PHP code here. It knows what this means, and then it's able to generate the appropriate text. And so what gets served, this is the source code that gets served to the browser. And it looks nothing like the actual code that lives on the server. Right? Because remember, Windows Explorer doesn't understand PHP. Okay? Okay. So, that is a crash course intro to server-side technology. Okay? So now we're going to get to the topic of the day, which is WordPress. What is WordPress? So you've probably heard of WordPress. Maybe you've heard it mentioned. And probably the word you associate with it is blog, like you mentioned earlier, right? So there are many, many blogs supported by WordPress. So WordPress is a content management system. Okay, and so what that means is, so think of a blog. What is a blog? A blog is a site with a bunch of content, right? WordPress is a content management system. So you would think it would probably be good for managing blog content, right? But you don't have to use it as a blog site. Okay, let me show you my site. My personal site is a WordPress site. Okay? Now, see, look, even I have a WordPress install. So what I did is I have a redirect. There's a file in my root folder that redirects it to my WordPress folder. Okay? So, obviously, I'm a busy guy. I don't want to code a website from scratch. I just want to have a site for my portfolio to display my work. So if we go back to our, here, I'll save this. If we go back, oh, it's saved over my thing? Shit, okay, hang on. Save as, what was this one? Server stat. And we're going to undo. Yeah, okay. Save as. Okay. Oh, why didn't it ask me that the first time? Okay, so now we'll go forward again. No, wait, I wanted to go back. Okay, here. Okay, so, shoot, now I lost my train of thought. What was I going to tell you? What was I saying? Oh, yeah, so, okay. So I required a lot of power, but little control, right? Like a portfolio site is a portfolio site, right? I'm not going to compete on the design of my portfolio site. I mean, maybe I could, but not really, right? It's pretty much going to be the same thing. So why would I reinvent the wheel and recode all this stuff that has probably been coded hundreds, thousands, millions of times? Why would I do that if I don't require a lot of control? I want power. So this website, I was able to install in probably a half an hour, get it running. Then all I do is focus on my content. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But first we're just going to get WordPress installed. Okay, so there's the WordPress site, and they will actually host a blog for you. Get a free website and blog here. So, maybe that's how we can do this. Because I'll have to double check to see what we can do with a WordPress install hosted by WordPress. Ooh, this might actually work. So I'm going to look at this after. I considered this, but I didn't think it enough in detail. But this might be a good way for you to submit your assignment. But I'll get back to you on that. So you can host a WordPress install just on WordPress itself, or like I've done, I downloaded the WordPress application and installed it on my own server. So CarmenBrangie.com is a server that I lease, right? It's like $60 a year. And so I installed WordPress on that server just because for me I like to have a little more control, right? And then I get my own domain, like it's not going to say wordpress.carmenbrangie.com. I think it's a little more professional when you have your own URL. That's just sort of my opinion. So what it allows you to do is just quickly create a website, pick a theme. So you pick a ready-made theme from, and there are hundreds of free ones. You can buy more professional-looking ones for tens of dollars, maybe, right? Like that's nothing. Think of the development budget of a website. It could be thousands and thousands of dollars, and $50 for a theme, and there you got your design pretty much done, right? So, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to download WordPress, and I'm going to take you through how to install it on the local machine. Okay, so this probably won't be required for your assignment, but it's important to kind of see the process. Okay, so let's do that. Let's download WordPress. Okay, so here we go. We're going to download it. Did it download? Okay. So it's downloading. It's 6 megs. Okay. Show in folder. Yep. Question?
Is there a way to pull a screen down there?
Oh. Windows. Oh. Better? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go to this folder and we're going to expand it. So I'll right click, extract to WordPress 3.91. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my root folder of my web server. Does someone remember what the root folder of my web server was? Right, but what's before it? It's WAMP www, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So you can see I've already, I've demoed this a couple of times. So I'm going to create a new WordPress directory. We'll call this WordPress. What should we call it? What's this? What's the course code? 109. Course code for this? Yeah, 109. So WordPress 109. And then remember, I always like to do a little bit of development and then test. So I want to test to make sure my web server is working. So I'm going to go here, just create an index file, index.html, and then we'll just edit it, and I'll say hello, and save it. And now I want to visit that page through my web server. So what do I type into my browser here? What do I type? Localhost, which does what? It points back to my own computer. Localhost, then what? Nope, because WAMP and www is essentially covered by localhost, right? Because the web server thinks that that is the root folder and that nothing else exists. So what did I remember I called it WordPress 109 / index.html. There we go. Okay, so web server is working. Okay, so we're good. So now I'm going to go back to my downloads where I extracted WordPress. Okay, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to open up all these files. So I'm going to go into the directory WordPress. I'm going to take all these files. I'm going to cut them or copy them and go back to my WordPress directory. I'm going to delete my test file. We don't need that. And I'm going to paste it here. Okay? So far, so good. Let's refresh this. No, we want just this. Okay. So, it's already WordPress install. They try and make it as easy as possible. They call it like the 5-minute install. So it should take not too long. So the first thing it says is that there doesn't seem to be. So I visited localhost, which is right that WAMP / www. Then I visited the folder that I copied all those files to. All right, we'll close this. Whoops. So here's all my files, and so it knew just to call up index.php. Because remember, index.php or index.html is automatically the first file that's served up. So if you just browse to the folder, index is the file that will be called. So it says there doesn't seem to be a something file. I need this before we can get it started. So it gives us a nice button, and there we go. So now it's asking us to do a couple of things. Okay, so this is going to be, we're going to do a little bit of server-side stuff right now. And this is going to be as complex as it gets. But again, don't worry. I don't expect you to know this perfectly by the end of today, but just so that you see it, so you understand, so you know that it exists. Okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to our WAMP tool here. Okay? And we're going to click on PHP MyAdmin. So this is a GUI interface that allows us to administer our database, okay, with point and click. So it allows you to administer a database without having to know any SQL. So SQL, or Structured Query Language, is a special programming language that all it does is retrieve and store data from a database. That's all it does. Okay? So we could do not only a course, probably 3 or 4 courses on databases and SQL. Okay? So we're not going to get into that. But with PHP MyAdmin, you can do the basics and get started. Okay? So we're going to click on PHP MyAdmin. Now, most servers, so for example, my server, carmenbranchi.com, comes with this tool already installed. 99%, unless your server is the worst server on literally the planet, it's going to come with PHP MyAdmin. Okay?
Sorry, when you say server, do you mean the one we made?
So even that free server that we got, when it was working, I'm pretty sure it had PHP MyAdmin as well. And when you sign up for, like when you buy a server or lease a server, what you're going to have is something called cPanel that gives you all these applications that you can use to administer your server. Right? I wonder if we can, there's not a cPanel here, but yeah, because really all we really need access to is this for right now. I'll show you cPanel in a little bit. So we're going to go to PHP MyAdmin. And I think the path is just root with no password, which is poor security, but this is just for demo. Okay, so what are we looking at here? So here we have databases. Okay, so databases are a collection of tables. Okay, so let's say, and I'm going to give you the world's fastest introduction to databases here. Okay, so let's say we need a database that will store the information that we need to run a doctor's office. So our database is going to have a bunch of tables, almost like Excel. You know, in Excel, we have tables, right? We have headings, we have rows, and we have columns. Okay? So in a database, the rows are data entries. Records, exactly. Rows are records, same thing. Columns are your variables that you want to store. Right? So let's say I have, let's say for one of the tables we would have if we had a doctor's office is a table that stores patient data. Right? So let's look at an example of a patient table. So here we have one row in here. So we have the username, we have the password, we have the first name, last name, phone number, health card, sex, age, weight. Right? That is a table that will store information for patients. Okay, so using PHP MyAdmin, I could click on this row, or I could add a new row. Let's insert a row. So I'll click on Insert, and then we could create a, Bob, blah blah blah, password, Bob Smith. Okay, and normally, we can do this just filling in these fields, and then we click Go. Oh, incorrect integer value for. Oh, maybe here. We'll just leave this blank for now. I guess we need stuff in here. Okay, let's try it. Why is this appearing below the... Okay, here we go. Password. Oh, maybe I need to have one here. Just put some stuff there. Okay, so this right here is our SQL code. And our PHP MyAdmin generated it for us. And executed the code, and now if we look at our patients table, we have 2 rows. We have Carmen, who is already there, and now we have Bob. Okay? So a database contains tables which contain rows and columns. Okay? So what we need to do is create a database that WordPress can use. So we're going to create a shell, and the WordPress install process is going to create all the tables and all the fields for us. Right? So that's, remember I said you don't need to know how to use MySQL, you just have to know about it, because WordPress is going to take care of everything for us. Okay? So first thing I'm going to do is create a new database. Yep. It'll do everything for you. Everything. We won't have to do anything aside from create the database. So I'm going to create a new database. Let's see, I always forget how to do this. Let's see, localhost. No, do I want to, where is it? I always hide it on me. Databases. I just clicked that. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I'm going to create a new database. We'll call it WordPress 109. Okay, because that's keeping in line with what we've done. So we're going to create it. Database, okay, so now it's been created. So we have a new database here. Where did it go? WordPress 109. So let's go back to our install script. So it says, before getting started, we need some information on the database. You will need to know the following items. So database name, okay, we know that. Now we have to create a database username. So it's kind of weird, but because the database and the web server are 2 different applications, we need to create a username that the web server uses to talk to the database. If that makes sense. So we're going to create a username for the web server. Okay? Okay. So just keep that weird thought in your mind for now.
But
So
the
we're
username, I'm sorry.
going to generate it in a second.
But the username, when you say you create it for the web server, you're still naming the database.
Yes, I'm going to do it in.
Above.
I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm going to do it in PHPMyAdmin. So I'm going to create a username and password, but it's not for a human. No human will use it. It's for the web server to get in, because a database can actually exist on a separate physical machine, and it could be across the world. And so if that's the case, you need to have some security, because you don't just want anyone to be able to get in there, right? So that creates some security that way. So what we need to do is go back to PHPMyAdmin and go into our WordPress 109. And no, wait, that's not what I want to do. I want to hang on there. Yes, that's what I want to do. Okay, so we went to our database and we clicked on check privileges. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a user. So click here. And we'll call this WordPress 109. Or let's call it, just so we don't get confused, U underscore for user, then WordPress 109. And then I think we can use, this field is ignored. Okay, let's just ignore this field. And the password, we'll just say password, just to keep things simple. You wouldn't actually do this in a real deployment, but we just want to keep things simple. Okay? Okay, so we don't need to create a database with the same name because we've already done that, but we do want to grant all privileges. Again, that's maybe something you might not do in a real deployment, but for demonstration purposes, I just want to keep things simple. Okay, so now I'm going to go down here and click Go. So now privileges, users having access to. Okay, so it looks like all the users, and I'm going to grant access. Why does it say no? Edit privileges, and I want to. Up? Ah, jeez, Louise. Okay, go. So now, let's refresh. Still not. What? Password, yes. Usage. Edit. Privileges. Okay. Check all. Go. What? Okay, hang on. We're gonna get this. Grant all privileges. Oh, database specific. Maybe we have to go in here. No, it's grant. Table. Okay. Go. Table. Go. Back here. What the hell? Oh, no tables found. Okay, yeah, we have to go back to localhost and databases and enable statistics. Okay, let's try this one more time. Oh! What? Okay. Something that I did there is finally granted us privileges. Okay. So, we know our username now. And let's go back. We know our password, right? It was password. And we know our host. Can someone guess at what? So by host it means URL. So what would you think the host is going to be? I heard it, I think. Local host, yes, right? Because the database and web server exist on the same machine, okay? And table prefix. I don't think, yeah, we'll probably need that. So let's go. Okay, so database name, WordPress 109, username, u underscore WordPress 109, password was password, database host was localhost, and this is something we can choose ourselves. So we're going to do WP 109. And then, so it's going to put that prefix in front of all the tables. Okay. Now we're going to say submit. Error. Uh-oh. Database. Or we can't. Database server is down. Did we get the correct host name? Try again. Database name. Okay, let's just double check our WordPress host. Actually, yeah, let's change this. We're going to change this to, we change the host. Let's go back here. WordPress. I might have to do this again. Edit privileges. It's not letting me. I might have to create it, delete it, and create a new one. Resource table. Okay. Let's try this again. 109. We need to create a new user. Okay, well, let's try a new user. Okay. User, and we'll just say user WordPress. We'll just leave it at that. Local, we'll say local. Local host, password, password, password again. Oops. Password. And grant all privileges. Check all. And go. Okay, let's try it now. I think it didn't like that I didn't put in localhost. So we'll change the username to this. Right? That was my username, right? Yes. Okay. And now we're going to submit. All right. Look at that. All right, Sparky. See, the WordPress developers, they try and be funny, right? Normally this stuff is painful, as you can see, and so they try and make things light. So we're going to run, and we're going to cross our fingers. Okay, look, it looks like it's good. So, look, we're going to create a website. In the next 10 minutes, we're going to have a website together. Okay? So what should we call this website? Let's call it Carmen's Awesome Website. Okay. Username is... So this is a real user. This is a username for a human now. So because WordPress is a content management system, there's going to be a front end and a back end. So people that don't have your username, they're going to see this is like my site. So this is the front end. Right? This is the front end that everyone sees. But there's a back end. I could go WP login, and now I can log in and do some back end stuff. Okay? So let's continue on. Where did my... Okay. No. Where did it go? Okay. So username, we'll just say Carmen, and password, we'll keep password as well. See this? This is some jQuery in action. You see how that is good user, good usability. Okay? So as soon as I typed it in, it told me, oh, that's weak, very weak. Okay? Password, and so it's very weak. Okay, that's fine. And my email, I'll just put in my Gmail. You know, because if you do a lost password, it will use that email. Okay. Install WordPress, go. Okay, that's it. We're done. Okay, so now let's see what our WordPress site, Carmen's Awesome Site, looks like right out of the box. So we'll go. So how do I get to this site? How do I get there? What do I type in my browser? Yes, localhost. Because Carmen's Awesome Website, that's just the conceptual name, right? That's not the address. So localhost. Then what? WordPress 109, right? And that's it. Let's try it. There we go. Okay? So, that's what we get with no work, aside from the installation. Okay? Now, you could, if you went through WordPress.com, you wouldn't even have to do that installation phase, which wasn't that hard, right? Just a little stumbling, but we got through it. Okay, so let's take a look at, now we're going to start getting into cool stuff, okay? So let's, usually there's a link at the bottom, login, usually, okay? Or you could just type WP underscore, or no, hyphen login.php. Okay? So that brings us to here. So now we can log in. Okay, so what we are looking at here is our dashboard, our back-end management system where we can manage our website. Okay, so the first things first. I didn't like the theme. Where'd it go? I'm gonna close all this. Where did it go? Oh, whatever. We'll just open it up again. So, I don't like this theme. It doesn't strike me. So, let's change it. Now, do we have to go through pages of CSS code and spend hours and hours restyling everything? No. All we do is we go to Appearance and we go to Themes. Okay? And look at all these. So these are the 3 themes that come installed. Okay? There are more themes exist than you will have time to go through. Okay? There are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of good free ones, and there are also ones that you can purchase. Okay? So so this is the default. It's called 2014. Every year WordPress releases, like their own sort of standard. So let's say, I don't like the new one. Let's change to let's change to 2013. So let's change the style of our site with one click. Okay, now let's go back here. Look at that. Okay, so you see how, look, with WordPress, I can reskin a whole site by clicking one button. That is incredible power. Okay? But now if I'm like, oh, you know what? This should be a little bit smaller. It's possible, but not terribly easy. Right? You've lost control now. You've gained power, but you lose control. But maybe you don't care about control. So if that's the case, then WordPress is good for you. Let's take a look at a couple of other themes. So these are the 3 that come installed. We can go and add new. So we'll click on add new. And so we can search themes. These are sort of, I guess, the ones that just come up at first. So we can go to the popular ones. Okay. So it's already 2011. That's an old one. Here's one that's responsive. So not all the themes are responsive, but some of them are. Here's another one just called Make. 2010. That's an old one. 80s. Look at all. I mean, there's more than we can even just go through, browse through tonight. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going, right? So now, now your time is spent thinking about style, not about hunting down missing semicolons in your CSS code, which is, if you really want control, you just have to put up with that. But if you don't need it, why do it, right? Just do this. So, I mean, look at this. There's literally more than we can go through today. I mean, it just keeps coming and coming. Yep. Possibly. Well, maybe. No, but you see what, here's where the money is now, is you make your own theme and you sell your theme for $20 a shot, right? That's how you make money now as a designer, I think, because unless you're a big shop, there's just not a lot of reason, right? There's just so much. There's so many tools available. Okay, so let's install another app because there's so much I can show you. We could spend another couple of classes just looking at stuff in WordPress because I haven't even got to the plugins yet. Wait till you see some of the. You can create an e-commerce site in an hour. There's a plugin called WooCommerce. It costs a little bit of money, but you just drag and drop. It comes, all the cart, all that stuff. It's all there, right? And so then you focus on selling stuff, not debugging a shopping cart, right? Okay, so let's try 80. So first we have to install. So what that does is it copies all the files to my local server, and then we can go, so return to theme installer, and then so we'll go to back to themes, and so now we have 80, so we can activate it, and now we go back here, instantly a new site. Okay, now see how, so it has these certain elements, right? WordPress works. There are a couple of concepts. So you have the idea of a page. You can create a page, or you can also create a post. So a post is like a blog post. So you may have many posts on a single page. But so for example, looking at my site, and I'll show you how to create a page right now. It's super easy. So for example, let's say I have my portfolio. I have a VibroChord page that I created in WordPress. And this is what the VibroChord page is. This page. Okay, so let's do that now. Let's go back. So we've already installed this cool 80s font or theme. So now I'm going to, so notice here. So we have posts. We have media. So that we can upload video and images and music through here. Then we have pages. We also have, so remember, WordPress was created with blogs in mind. So if it is 100% perfect if you just want to create a blog. Because then, you create a post and then people comment on your posts. And so there's a whole page here in the dashboard that allows you to administer and manage posts, quote unquote. So see here, I actually deleted posts off my page because what was happening is just bots were coming in and creating just random posts. So, okay, here's one limitation or possible disadvantage of using WordPress. It's very popular. Okay? When things are popular, bad people try and do bad things. Right? The reason why there's no viruses on Mac is because nobody uses them. The market is like, compared to PC, it's like single digit market. Okay? Not, I'm being a little, I'm joking a little bit, but really,
Only a little.
nobody uses Macs. Not compared to PC. It's like 10 to 1.
Not no people.
No, very little people. Very little. But from the point of view of a virus designer, if you want to create havoc, if you create a virus for Macintosh, nothing's going to happen. Right? If you create a virus for PC, it's going to spread like wildfire because lots and lots more people use PC. Same with WordPress. WordPress is popular, so everybody knows about it, but that means everybody knows about its exploits. Right? Before I switched servers now, but on my old server, my WordPress site used to get hacked all the time. And so these bots would log into my site and change things and inject code, and so there are disadvantages and advantages to using applications like this. Okay, so sorry I went on a little tangent there. But so what we're going to do is create a page. So we're going to go to Pages. So right now when I go here, I don't have any pages. I just have my main page. So I'm going to go here, and so this is our sample, but let's create a new one. We're going to add a new page. Okay, so what's the title of our page? Let's call it My Awesome Stuff. Okay, and then I could, this page describes all the awesome stuff I own. Okay, there we go. So far, no HTML at all at this point. Now let's say, let's put in, we want to put in a picture. So do we need to know about the image tag? No, we do not, because what we do is we click on Add Media, and we use this nice little drag and drop functionality here. So I'm going to go find a picture. Let's see here. This is probably... Oops. Damaged. What? Oh, okay. Wasn't mine. Oh, here's one. John Coltrane. You guys like jazz? Here we go. Coltrane. Okay, so I'm going to take this, bring it into here, drop it into here, and it's going to upload to my server. Oh, it did it twice for some reason. I'm going to delete it. Delete one. Can I delete it? It doesn't matter. So I'm going to click here. Now we have titles. I can put in my alt text. So alt text is very important because when blind people view web pages, they use software called a screen reader, which reads out loud what the content of your web page is. So if you don't have alt text for your images, it won't have anything to read for them. So you might say a picture of John Coltrane, and then here your caption you might say a picture of John. Right, so notice there's no code involved here. This is all very GUI, right? It's a WYSIWYG editor. Okay, a picture of John Coltrane. Okay, so now I'm going to insert into page. Look at that. So now, I want it bigger. Let's make it bigger. Okay? So I can do this. So I have a couple of Coltrane albums. Okay, so what else can we do here? That's it for now. So let's publish. And now you'll see a couple of things. So what it does for, I guess our navigation is up here. Okay, so when you create a page, WordPress automatically creates the navigation bar for you. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to change this theme because it's not that good for demonstrations, so I'm just gonna change it to the simple theme. Let's change it. I'm going to change it to this 2012. This is what I have on my page. So I'm going to change the theme. Okay. And now I'm going to refresh. Okay. So see now, it's created. So I have my home page. I have my awesome stuff page that I just created. And it automatically created the navigation for me. Okay, so now we can go to sample page. That's the sample that came in. Okay, now let's create a sub page. So a page within a page. So we're going to go back to our dashboard. I'm going to go back to pages, and I'm going to create a new page. So let's say I want a sub page that deals with just the music stuff that I own. So I'm going to go over here, no parent. I'm going to pick my awesome stuff as the parent page. I'm going to publish. Now I'm going to go back here and refresh. And now if I go into my nav, now look, it's created this little drop down. Okay? So, you know, in order for you guys or anyone, even for a coder, to code all this from scratch. I mean, you know, with this drop-down menu, you know, all these posts and things, it would take you months to debug it and make sure it's working. And look what we've done in literally 15 minutes, right? We've gone through 4 or 5 themes, right? We've added a couple of pages. So let's look. What if we wanted to, you know, incorporate a blog? So let's see what's creating posts all about. So we could go to posts. We could add a new post. And we could say something like, this is my first post. Isn't WordPress awesome? You can create very complex web pages very quickly. Publish. Okay, so now if we go here, so see recent posts, and this is, so my first page, and you can turn this off if you don't want, has, you know, my posts. Okay, so I can see recent posts, and then it has functionality for comments built right in already. So I could leave a reply and say, hey, this is a cool post. Post comments. Okay, so now I can look at my post and I see my comment right here. Okay, I could even go and administer my comments. I can go here, click on comments, and there we go. So hey, this is a cool post. So I could say unapproved because maybe it was spam or trash, or you know, maybe I want to reply quickly. Okay, so all this functionality just comes with WordPress. It's already there for you. Okay, what else do I want to show you? So any questions thus far? Too many to start? We'll try. What's the anything terribly unclear? For me, a lot of this stuff, WordPress is so user friendly that you can learn a lot of stuff just by poking around and clicking on stuff. You know. Okay, I'm going to show you some plugins. So plugins now are something else that you can add in. So, you know, WordPress just comes with the basic blog stuff that we saw, creating pages, comments, things like that. But there are many, just like people create themes that you can download, people create plugins that take advantage of the WordPress architecture. So all you do is literally plug it in and go. Okay? So let's add a new plugin here. So let's take a look. Oh, what happened here? No, where did my plugins go? Add new. Okay. So let's just look for some popular plugins, see what's around, see what's available. So we have a contact form, right? So this is a plugin that I've never seen a lot of these. Contact form can manage multiple forms, plus you can customize the form. We'll try one of these. Jetpack by WordPress supercharges your self-hosted WordPress site with the awesome cloud power of WordPress. So some of these are more useful than others. WordPress WooCommerce. Let's try this one. We probably won't get too far because I'm not going to go too much past 8:30, but I just want to show you sort of what is possible. So let's try this now. Let's try installing it. Yes. Okay. So it's downloading. It's a little bigger. There we go. So we'll activate the plugin. So now what we have to do is, so now I went to plugin, it's giving me this little message at the top. So I'm just going to install WooCommerce pages. Okay, and I think that's almost, we're good to go almost. Okay, so now look at all this stuff that it gave us. Just in literally, how many clicks was that? 3 clicks, right? WooCommerce click, install, done. Okay, now look, we can do this. We can go here, WooCommerce. Let's create some products. Let's add a product. So let's call it widget number 672. Okay, and then, this is a super cool widget. Buy it. Okay, and then what else can we do? Oh, so we can give it a regular price. So it's regularly $99.99, on sale for the low price of $29.95, and we could give it all sorts of numbers if we want, like SKU numbers. What else? How do we? We'll have to change because right now it's set to English pounds. But let's so we'll save. Let's publish this. Okay, and let's view the product. Even lets us do it from the. So we can go to shop. And here's our product, right? All I did was just create the information, right? Think if you're a store owner, you don't want to be playing around and debugging, your PHP and your database and your connection to PayPal. Because trust me, I've developed sites like that. It's hard. It's difficult. It takes a lot of smart people and a long time. Okay, but look at this. We've done it already. So now I could add this to my cart. Okay, and let's go. Let's look in our cart. There it is, right? And all this stuff is right there, right? This takes a long time to do from scratch. We can proceed to checkout. I assume you'd have to set it up with PayPal or something else to actually process your payment. Yeah, so it even comes with check payment. I'm not sure how that's going to work. But let me just see if I can change it to British pounds or to dollars. So let's go back to our. I'm sure it's just here. WooCommerce settings probably. Then we can see all of our orders. Here we go. Canada. Even province. Sell to all, so all, here we go, currency. Where's our Canadian dollar? Currency position. Yeah, left, that's fine. Okay, and good. Okay, so see, we can go in and they try and allow you to be able to customize typical things that you might want to customize. And so, you can see how with just, obviously it would we have to go through, add all our products, make sure it's all that stuff. But that's kind of the important stuff, right? As a seller, you are worried about your products and selling your products, right? You're not a developer. You're not a web developer, right? So you should, as a business, you should be focusing on your core competencies, right? Even the corporation I work for right now, I feel they should not be developing their own software because they're terrible at it. They're not good at it, right? They have other core competencies, and most, this creating a website is a difficult thing to do. It's very difficult, and so if that's not your expertise, you shouldn't be doing it. You should be paying someone to do it, or you should use a tool like this. Okay? Because, back to my page. I have the skills. I could have done it from scratch. Why, though? I don't want to. Right? This is, as a PhD student, this is when I put this up, I had other things to focus on. It's important that my stuff gets up on the web. It's not important that it's on a website that I built from scratch. Right? Now, if I was creating a very specific application, yes, absolutely, I would probably do it from scratch. But even then, there are things, back to this, there are things that live between like the pure stuff we've been working on and WordPress. There's stuff in between there. WordPress is probably the highest level you can go. In between, we have things called frameworks. And those things are really out of scope of this course. So a couple of frameworks, I'll just throw out some names, because again, these are the things that you should be familiar with. Can anyone name any web frameworks? No, I wouldn't expect that you could. I'd be really impressed if you could name one. Probably just Google it now and get it. So one popular one is called, I'm going to forget the names now. I'm drawing a blank here. So one framework was called Selenium. Another is called Zend framework. Another is called Cake PHP. That's a PHP framework. Another is called, I think those are the big ones. Selenium, Cake, Zend. That doesn't really matter. But so what it is, so if you're a developer, these frameworks exist between pure HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and WordPress. So it's not a content management system. You wouldn't get all this stuff here. But what you get is, it's like jQuery in a way, but more complex. It allows you to do typical things very easily. Right? Because the beautiful thing about computers is you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. One person does it, then everyone else uses it. Right? Because then everyone else can work on something else, another problem. There's no use in everyone continuously re-solving the same problem. Okay? Okay, any questions? I know I've thrown a ton at you today. I know I have. But this is the deep end that web developers live in, right? So I haven't quite thrown you in, but I've definitely put you to the edge and told you to look over, right? And hopefully, maybe you can see the bottom, maybe not. I don't know. How do you like my deep water metaphor? Is it working for you? Okay. All right. So any questions or comments about WordPress? Like, high level, can you do this? Anything? I don't expect you to memorize the install process. Like that install process, you'd have to Google things. You'd maybe ask someone who's an expert. And there are plenty of tutorials, even aside from, I've been recording today, so you can rewatch that. But even probably if you go to YouTube and type in how to install WordPress, there's probably 50 tutorials on how to do it, right? And then, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to assign the next assignment today because I just want to double check. I'm going to double check WordPress.com and make sure that it gives you the dashboard and all that, because that's what I want you to work with. I don't want you to spend too much time installing a server, installing WordPress. because that could eat up a lot of your time. So if you feel adventurous and you want to, I invite you to do that on your own machine. So I invite you to install WAMP and then install WordPress locally. Okay, that is the preferred. That's the way to do it. Okay, I think we're going to stay away from that free server that we looked at before because you get what you pay for, obviously, right? So your next assignment, which I'll post up sometime this week, and it won't be due next week. I'll give you a little bit extra time, but I want you to remake the website that you have now. You're going to redo it in WordPress. Okay. So you have your site with 4 or 5 pages. You have your form. You have your images and all that stuff. So you're going to be redoing your website that you did from scratch, and you're going to do it in WordPress. Okay. So I'm just going to double check that you can do that on. I just want to make sure that WordPress.com that'll support that. Because, like I said now, our code and our server now, because it's talking with our database, it's like they're married together. If you take away the code now, it's totally meaningless. It will not work without the specific server that we created. Because remember, we created all those databases, right, in phpMyAdmin with all those specific names. And so even if I have a server with MySQL, I won't have the database named the same that we named it. I won't have the same username, right? So now that we're getting into server-side technology, you'll see it gets a little more complex. You can't just email me your code anymore. You can't email me your WordPress stuff because it's no longer self-contained in the code. Now we are starting to decouple in a way that we should. Okay? So in development and in engineering, there's something called, you want to maintain strong cohesion and weak coupling. Do you know what that means? So think of a train. Think of a train. All the train cars are very strongly cohesive. A single train car will not break apart. It is solid like a rock, right? And each of the train cars are exactly like that. Okay? So we have strong cohesion in the units, and they're weakly coupled, right, with just that little thing that couples the train cars. Weakly coupled. That's what we want to do with our code as best as we can. So for example, our data, we want to have strong cohesion. So all the data in our web page we want in one spot. Where do you think we want to store all of our data? In the database, exactly. And so then we have a weak coupling between our HTML code and PHP code and our data. So our structure, like our HTML, that has a strong cohesion. All of our structure is in our HTML document, and it's loosely coupled with our data. Okay? So notice here, like this is our this post, that text is not present in any file. It's in the database. Okay? So let's look at it. Let's look at the database. So I'll go to my WAMP stack. I'll go to phpMyAdmin. And I'm going to go here. And see, we have a table here. WP109 posts. So we're going to look there. Now look, see, this page, so this is all the stuff that I wrote, right? Oh, I didn't type WordPress. Isn't WordPress pretty awesome, right? So all that text is now stored in the database. So if you sent me your code, this code here that lives in here, it's just an empty shell. It doesn't contain the data. The data is located in the database, and the structure is located here. Right? So we've tried our best to create strongly cohesive, loosely coupled modules. Right? You keep your style, your structure, and your database separate. Because when we do that, we can do awesome things like restyle our page with one click. If you don't have that decoupling, you can't do that. Because you'd have to go in, if it's mixed together, you can't just change all the style because all your data is mixed in there. Right? But if you decouple it and have your data in one place, your structure in another place, and your style in yet another, it's like just pulling out components, right? Yep. Yes. Yes. And so what you would do, no, the more I think about it, that's not going to work. Because it has to be on a server. Unless, well, what we could do is that if you do it locally, then I'll have to look at it in class and mark it then. We could do that. But it's going to be a big pain in the butt, because what you would have to do is you would have to send me all your code. You would have to do what's called a database dump. So it takes everything out of the database, puts it into one file. So then I would have to take that, put that into a database, and sort of install your thing. And so it would take me like 5-10 minutes per person just to do that. Too much. So I'm gonna post the assignment details and the submission details tomorrow or on the weekend. And so either you'll be doing it on WordPress.com, or you can do it locally on your own machine and then just show me in class. Because it'll just be a quick, like I'm just gonna, oh yeah, you have 5 pages, images good, form good to go, pretty much. Okay.
If you do download a server on your computer,
yeah.
Does it take up a ton of space?
No. So the download itself was like 6 megs, and let's see. Let's look here. What do I want to do? That's actually quite 430 megs. It's not enormous. It's not tiny either. Oh, you know what? That might be because it seems a little excessive. That might be because I have a bunch of stuff in my server. No, it's not counting that. Okay. So it's going to be about 350 megs. The one thing I'll warn, I think is too strong of a word, but I'll let you know about, is that you can conflict with certain software. So for example, WAMP, your web server will not start if you have Skype running, because they're using the same. So we haven't talked about ports at all in this course, right? Okay, we did talk about URLs though, right? And IP addresses. So remember we talked about an IP address. What's an IP address? What's that? Right. But I mean conceptually, what is it? What does it represent? Yeah, it's the address of the number. So let's say I tried this last time, but let's see. I think can we do it here? So my IP address currently for this machine is this. It's not actually that because we're using a router, but this is the address of my computer. Okay, so let's say, what was it, 192.168.561. Okay, so that is the address. So think of that as like the address of an apartment building, right? A big building. So 123 Main Street. That's that. But what if you want to send a letter not to the building, but to a specific apartment? Right? So you need to list the apartment number as well. So the equivalent to that for networking is called the port. Okay? So how we specify a port is with a semicolon after the IP address. So, can anyone tell me what port a web server uses? So it's a number between 1 and 65,000. 21? Why'd you guess that? That was totally random? Because that's actually the port for FTP. So that's why I asked you, because that was a weird guess. It was correct in the wrong way, but you know what I mean? Okay, so FTP uses 21. I think we talked about this early. No, we didn't at all? So port 80 is the default port for web. So when you type, let's say www.google.com, you're actually typing also port 80, but it's just by default. You don't need it because it's always port 80, right? But let's say if I typed in FileZilla, okay, typed in FileZilla and I logged into, let's say, the research lab. Oops. This. So the port for the FTP would be 21. So I could quickly connect. But it actually, 21 doesn't work. They use a different service called SFTP, which runs on port 22. So if I type in port 22, it should work. There we go. Okay? So each of those ports is like an address to an application on your computer. So Skype or Messenger, it acts like a server because it's waiting for incoming messages. So it's going to use a port to send and receive messages, right? Because when someone sends you a Skype message, it needs to get back not only to your computer but to Skype, right? Because the IP address gets us as far as the computer. But we want to then know, well, what application should we give this data to? So port 80 is the default port that a web server is listening on. So the reason why Skype and our web server conflict is because they use the same ports. So if you shut down Skype, it'll work. But you can go into Skype, into the configuration, and you can change the ports. Because the port numbers are absolutely arbitrary. The only reason we use 80 is because we've always used 80. That's the only reason. You could use port 666 if you wanted to. In fact, I think I read the other day, it was reserved for multiplayer games for Doom over the network. Or Quake, or one of those games. Right? So you can use any port number you want. So for example, when I want to access, on my web page, if I want to access cPanel, I go to port 2082. It's just it's any port. It could be any port, any number. And that's going to bring me to this cPanel login. Okay? So the web server is actually listening on 2 ports. It's listening on port 80 and it's listening on port 2082. And if it gets stuff from 2082, it's going to display a different page. Okay, so think of the IP address is like the building address, and the port is like the apartment address. So the IP gets you to the computer, the port gets you to the application that's running in the computer. Okay, because I have on my computer, I'll have my FTP client, that's using one port. I'll have my browser, that's using another port. I'll have Dreamweaver, that might be using another port, and I might have Skype, that might be using another port. So all these messages are coming into my computer, and the operating system is able to divvy them out to the right applications based on the port number. Okay? Okay. Any other questions about WordPress? No? Okay.
If you do it through WordPress,
Yep.
you have to have WordPress in your address.
Yes.
In your URL.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Which is why I like to host it on my server. I think maybe you might be able to pay them. I don't know. I've never used it. I've just always used my own server. So I'll double check that you can do this with WordPress.com, that you can do the dashboard and everything, and then I'll post the details for the assignment this weekend. Okay. So I think I've overwhelmed you guys enough. I don't want to totally drown you, but I really wanted to show this to you because I've been showing you a lot of low-level stuff, and I kind of wanted to show you the light at the end of the tunnel, or like where you're going to, because really, it's almost dangerous. It's almost not a good idea to show beginners like you guys these types of tools. It's almost like you guys are just learning to drive, and I gave you a Formula One race car. Okay, so it may you'll go really really fast. There's a possibility you're going to crash. Okay. No, there is going to be an assignment, of course, but I'm just telling you really should know PHP and MySQL before you really start wielding tools like WordPress. Because what's going to happen is someone's going to say, oh, can you make this little adjustment? And you're going to say, I don't know how. Because you need to know PHP, and you definitely need HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP, and probably MySQL too. Right? So, you can't really utilize WordPress to its maximum unless you know all the low-level stuff that we've been learning, right? So just as a cautionary note, okay? Okay. No other questions? Okay.
As a non-person with Mac,
Yep.
if you put man in, is
Yep.
it the same language following through?
Yes. Yes. So, because it's the PHP, MySQL, Apache, that's the most important part. Okay? Okay, so we're going to stop there. I'll give you, if you want to take some time to start on your WordPress assignment, basically you're going to be redoing your other assignment in WordPress. You can do that. A few people were having problems with jQuery. We can check out that. If you have any other questions, stuff that you'd like me to look at, I'll be around. We can take a look. Yeah, so make sure, I know I haven't assigned a jQuery assignment yet, but I think we're going to come back to that next week, and I'm going to just review it quickly, show you a little bit more, and then I'm going to have you do a jQuery assignment. So make sure that you've watched the jQuery videos and that you're familiar with it. Okay, just don't think because we haven't had an assignment that we're just going to leave it. So we have, how many more classes do we have? We have, well, 4 including today, right? We end on the 31st. Okay. Yeah, that's coming up. So, yeah, we have 3 more classes. So I think what I'm going to do is, maybe I'm going to combine the jQuery into a larger-ish assignment that I'll assign next week and will be due on the 31st. So it'll kind of be something that will be, it will take all of the skills that you've learned so far to do. Like you basically be creating a small little website. Okay? And that it'll include, everything we've learned. A little bit of JavaScript, a little bit of jQuery, CSS, HTML. Probably no WordPress because it's kind of hard to just do a little bit of WordPress. It's kind of all or nothing. So expect that for next week. Okay? Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns? No? So if you have a mark for assignment 4, you're all good. If not, I know I saw a bunch of emails and things, so send me your stuff. I'll try and get it marked by tomorrow, Saturday. Just trying to meet a deadline at work that's due tomorrow, so probably on the weekend I'll have lots of time, or more time. Okay, so if that's it, we'll stop talking. Have a good weekend if I don't see you or talk to you. Okay, you want to, yeah, let's see. I'm just going to take a quick break. Oh, yeah, stop.
I will send you that
Yes.
once I get home.
Okay, put it in the Dropbox. It's
Yeah.
easier for me that way.
Yes, just, yeah.
Yep.